So here we go, something else to worry about, at least according to the Environmental Working Group, a non-profit advocate organization that states as its goal the providing of easy access to information you need to make smart, healthy choices. Those choices usually favor organic products. EWG is generally critical of the pesticides used in conventional agriculture and of many of the additives used by the food industry. This time, the target is chlormequat, a plant growth regulator that is sometimes used on oats, barley, and wheat to strengthen the stalk, keeping it from bending over. This reduces crop loss when it comes to harvest, which of course is profitable for the farmer and hopefully reduces the price for the consumer. Canada allows the use of chlormequat, but the US does not, although it allows the import of crops that have been treated with the chemical as long as residues are less than 40 parts per million. That number is based upon the no observed adverse event level, which is the maximum dose fed to animals without causing any effect. That number then is divided by 100 to provide an extra margin of safety in order to determine the amount that can be safely consumed by humans in a day, and that comes out to about 1 milligram. The Environmental Working Group purchased 96 urine samples. No, you won't find these in your pharmacy, but there are companies that can provide them. They also tested samples of oat cereals for the presence of the chemical. The results generated headlines that screamed about 80% of consumers having a chemical that causes fertility problems in their urine, and that this same chemical is found in oat cereals. Well, this needs some commentary. First, based on only 96 urine samples from unidentified donors, it is not valid to conclude that 80% of consumers in general have chlormequat in their urine. Also, finding it in the urine means that it passes out of the body, which is known to do so quickly. Second, the amount detected in the urine was of the order of 50 nanograms, which is way below the acceptable daily intake. As far as the oats go, the highest amount detected was 0.3 parts per million, which is way below 40 parts per million, the amount of residue that is allowed. Someone would have to eat roughly 3 kilograms of oat cereal a day to reach a level where there may be some risk, were that amount eaten every day. Third, the fertility problems were seen in animals fed higher doses than what humans could possibly consume, and were seen in some studies, but not others. It is easy to scare people about chemicals if proper context is not provided. Remember that we are exposed to thousands and thousands of chemicals every day, the vast majority from natural sources. There are potential stories behind every one of these, and with cherry-picked and out-of-context data, it is possible to label them as devils or angels. Strychnine can be made to sound angelic by focusing on its energy-boosting effect, as long as you don't mention that a slight overdose will rob you of energy permanently. Conversely, vitamin B12 can be portrayed as a devil by claiming, correctly, that it contains cyanide, while keeping quiet about the insignificant amount it contains. Similarly, apple juice could be linked to Satan by pointing out that it can contain paculin, a genotoxic, potentially carcinogenic compound. You just conveniently ignore that several gallons would have to be consumed to raise any specter of harm. Actually, somewhat less if the juice is organic, because paculin is produced by a mold that is more likely to infect organic produce than that is protected by chemicals. Numbers matter in science, and when you crunch the numbers about chlormequat, taking into account the amount of residue found in food, the frequency with which these foods are consumed, the acceptable daily intake, and the nebulous studies of the chemical's toxicity, I think its potential effect on health is pretty much of a non-issue, unless you want to make it one by presenting data out of context. And that for today is our Cup of Joe.